You've been in Ghana and you don't know this next person, then you are not in Ghana. Because that was the main reason along GHK. Because normally before this person comes on our screens, we play a particular song. And we're going to play that song before we bring that next panelist on stage. So our time it was brilliant science and math quiz. But now, what's the name? You know it. So on 3, you're going to give the beats. Along GH is gone. You would have done that for us. But because you are here, 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's put hands together and bring us in Professor Elsie Effah Kaufmann from University of Ghana.
We will have a problem of the day today, whether we like it or not. And now, anchoring this panel discussion for us is my own sister. Please, let's put our hands together for Mrs. Gyimaah Larbi. Okay, so they're going to take us for the next 30 minutes. So please, get your questions ready, and then let's listen to them. Thank you very much.
All right, so then this one person, let's invite Cecil Senna Nutakor to join us. It's a good afternoon. Good afternoon. Now there's a panel of educators, and so when I say good afternoon, you respond well. Good afternoon. Okay, so my name is Stella Gyimaah Larbi, but I love Gyimaah Larbi, and I'll be moderating this session. Okay. This afternoon we were looking at educating for sovereignty, bridging academia and industry to build Africa's AI ecosystem. And so we've already had a session for industry. Now we're going to look at how we can bridge academia and industry to build or rethink Africa. I'm so excited, you have no idea, to be on a panel with doctors and professor here, and Cecil, incoming doctor. Are you an incoming doctor? You have no option once you're on this panel.
That's too much work.
Okay, and so in 1 minute, Dr. Ayorkor, you're going to tell us, what does educating for AI sovereignty mean to you?
I think an important aspect of educating for AI sovereignty, which has already been alluded to earlier today, is to educate people who are going to become creators and not merely consumers of innovative, secure, human-centered AI technologies and solutions. An important aspect of this is having the knowledge, the skills, and the dispositions to make that happen.
Lovely. The same question to all of you. I'm not taking you, I'll take Prof. I'm being the women. So Prof, give us your perspective.
Thank you very much. I agree very much with what Ayorkor just said. It's about building capacity, the kind of capacity that enables those who have experienced the education that has been provided to be able to develop the tools, the platforms, the technology, everything that we need to be able to handle our own data, to be able to address our own problems, and to be able to be proud of what we have been able to achieve for ourselves instead of relying on others to do it for us.
Thank you. Dr. Nastati, what is your take?
Yes, thank you very much. I also do agree with what has been said. It's quite important to see that when you're working with AI systems, you heavily rely on data. And one of the biggest problems we tend to have found is how people collect data. Some of the data might not necessarily be collected well, so you have issues in your training of your model. So in order to get data sovereignty, it is important to see and analyze a framework that is going to be used so that students in the universities can own their own data and collect it properly, so that when they build the models, they completely understand the models and they can use the models in any way they see fit. Thank you.
So framework here. Let's come to you, Cecil.
I don't agree.
Okay. So divergent view.
Because from where I sit, if I don't have reliable energy, AI sovereignty doesn't even happen. Because to run my models that I created myself, use my own data in the name of sovereignty, you don't have enough energy for me to run it. Your electricity is not enough to run the compute that's required. And that's the truth. So the education I want from Ashesi University of Ghana, UPSA, is to produce people that can 10x the energy output of our country. Or even manage the wastage, the 40% ECG is wasted, no? And track the illegal connection, no? When you fix that, then we can have this your AI sovereignty questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Prof wants to add something. Okay.
If you were listening to my answer very carefully, I said it's not a problem of the day, it's a solution of the day. I mentioned that we need to build capacity to develop problem solvers so you see, if you have a problem solver who has identified the power issues, they will have to solve it in order to be able to do all the other things we've discussed. So the ability to solve problems, and so this discussion actually goes beyond AI.
Yeah.
We will talk about, I hope,
Of course.
the purpose of universities and how they can contribute to this.
So at least I have a friend. We agree.
That's what I can say here now. Lovely. So that's the beauty of having academics on the same panel. Now let's come here. Let's go to Dr. Ayorkor. Dr. Ayorkor, Ashesi. Now, Ashesi has been intentional about a lot of things, and I'm sure a lot of people here agree with me. How should African universities, so from the context of where you're coming from, how should African universities redesign AI education to produce not just engineers, but leaders who can shape AI systems responsibly?
So, you mentioned the word intentional, which brings in questions of leadership and ethics, which we need to be intentional about integrating into our education. And when we talk about integrating, I think the word integration again is an important one because it's not a separate conversation. Often, you might design a program and then you have an ethics course. And it's only in that ethics course that people talk about ethics. In all the other courses, they do whatever they want, right? But the thing is that it must be integrated. So whatever it is we're learning, that conversation about leadership and ethics and purpose must be part of that conversation. So I'll give you an example. In our master's program in a machine learning and data science course, as part of the presentations about the project, students had to talk about ethical implications of what they were doing and how they analyze ethics. So it wasn't just about what algorithms are you using or how do you clean your data, but what are the inherent ethical questions that came up and how is that addressed in your work? And I think that if in every technical course we do, there are conversations about ethics and responsibility, then that ensures that we're training engineers who don't think about this as a second thought, but right from the beginning of whatever it is I think in addition to that, it is good to have dedicated conversations about leadership and ethics. What kind of impact do you want to have? And just giving students a little bit of time and space to think about these questions really helps change the trajectory of what they aim to do with the knowledge that they are gaining. So those are a couple of thoughts.
Okay, so African universities have to be intentional in integrating these efforts. Thank you. I know you all have things to talk about, but let's come to you, Dr. Nyantechi. Dr. Nyantechi, academic city is positioned around innovation and industry. Because when you talk about academic city, that's what comes into mind first. How do we ensure AI curricula stay ahead of industry demands rather than constantly playing catch up?
Yeah, thank you. I do believe that we as universities or as academic city, we are moving from a reactive model where industry moves forward and then we try to play catch up, even in our curriculum. And so now what we tend to do is to have some form of co-creation with industry. And so currently we have a project where a mining company has given us some real world problems, and out of those real world problems, students have formed project works from those things. And so in doing that particular model, we tend to have a dual mentorship model where we have an academic mentor and then also an industry mentor. And so the academic person will make sure that the theoretical rigorousness, and then also methodologically is quite sound. And then the industry person will make sure that the project meets certain constraints and is also realistic in its approach. And so once we are able to play this co-creation with industry, we would tend to be able to solve real-world problems. And the idea is, as we tend to have the synergy with industry, the idea is to try and go ahead of industry so that we will tend to have research labs, hackathons, and other things in our curriculum that will tend to push the narrative and tend to shape the future instead of just using the technology, but rather create technologies that the industries would use.
Lovely. So moving from reactive models to co-creation with industry players, I think that's lovely. And this is something that I think all the universities, I'm sure they are adopting it. And we are adopting it? You are trying. What about you, Prof?
Yes, we are doing the same at the University of Ghana. If you come to the School of Engineering Sciences, for example, we are very big on inviting industry partnerships. So you will hear of us running all kinds of programs with industry. We have a very strong outreach team that goes out to communities or invites communities to join us. At the moment, we've started running a tracer study. We want to understand what we've done in the past in order to move forward and develop our programs in such a way that they are relevant. We even have another initiative called the Adopt a Course. So we open up our courses so that we can do something like what we just heard Dr. Nyantechi mentioning. You know, we have the academic who is responsible for the course, but we invite our industry partners to come and add value to what we are doing in the classroom. So there are many different ways of doing this, and we are exploring all of these things as well.
Lovely. Now, so you know, Prof, now to you. You've been championing this scientific research about for a long time now. And I've seen on your platform students from underserved communities compete with students who have got access to these resources. Now, from where we sit, how do we democratize AI education so it extends beyond elite institutions?
Yes,
Into the broader population.
Yes, we need to bring everybody on board. This is not something.
That?
Okay. There are many things that are already happening, but I can also make some suggestions and give examples of how these things are happening. The first thing is to make sure that you have many different entryways because we are not all at the same level. So if you are providing the education, have something for beginners, have something for intermediates. The beginners will be the ones learning the concepts. The intermediate target group will be those who are using the tools, and then we have the people that we really want to get to, the builders, the people who are coming up with new products and so on. So if we have training programs around these, it's possible for people to jump on at different levels. That would help. Another thing is there's still a lot of fear and myths out there about AI. We need to dispel those. So the suggestion I have for doing that, make it friendly and attractive. So have somebody like people who are smiling to talk about it. It also builds trust if you are able to do that. It advertises that this is not something for only the people from a particular school or a particular university, it's for all of us. Then there are some other community things that I have been doing. For example, I am patron of EduSports. EduSports is an NGO. What they do best is to organize communities around education. So they have these spaces which they call sports, right? Named after the drinking sport in Ghana, but this one is for education, please. So these spaces are open to the public. Anybody in the community can go there. They provide the resources which are so expensive for individuals. So digital tools, right, that they can use to be able to learn, they have there. And this creates the environment where they are thinking about the problems of that community and addressing them using all kinds of tools, including AI tools. It makes it possible. You know, if you make the thing relevant to the people you are trying to reach, they are more likely to adopt it. So having the community members themselves identify the problems that they are facing and then using the AI tools to address them is another way of getting everybody involved. I also work with the people that do the AirTag, the Young Mansa Model Labs. That's a different model altogether, right? But it's also community-based. So going into the communities, you are more likely to understand the challenges of infrastructure and develop programs that will actually benefit everyone, not just the elite. Coming back to the resources, we need to provide ways of learning AI, contributing to AI much more affordably, right? We can't have everything that is on the internet. You need high data, spend so much. Ghana, I think we are the highest, the most expensive data country in all of Africa. We have to bring that down, right? So coming up with products that lend themselves to use by all. For example, in Ghana here, most people are on mobile platforms. Building for high-level computing systems is not going to attract everyone. So have mobile platforms that everyone can access. These are some of the ideas, and there are many more. If we really want to do it, we will find a way to do it.
Lovely. I think MTN and the CTV, they mentioned the industry that is going to be, yes, very thin. You can access their app without internet, and that's a lovely idea.
That's a wonderful idea. I was very happy about that.
Yes. Now, let's come to you, Cecil. Cecil, you run an eCampus, okay? And how can AI-powered platforms deliver personalized learning? And so we had Prof mention all these avenues. And we have some learners who are audio learners, we have visual learners, we have tactile learners. How do you address all their needs? Because I was just looking at the AI and I was thinking, those who cannot hear, they can see the signs. So they can't see, they can hear them when they speak. So the AI embodies all these. How can the platforms also address the individual needs of these learners?
All right. So now I understand why Josh wanted me on this panel. So my panelists, or my fellow panelists, are from physical institutions. brick and mortar schools. So you have like a lot of things that need to follow based on regulation and all of that. So your speed of innovation can be a bit limited and all of that. I provide education using technology. So you download the eCampus app and you can start learning, right? So I don't need all the infrastructure and all of that you need. And it's easier for us to collect data, right? Because everything you click, even the movement of your eyes, we track all of that. Your attention span. So for us, the beauty of AI is that all this data we've been collecting since 2015, we can now make sense of it, all right? Which is the advantage we have that the brick and mortar schools don't have. Most of your data points, or the ones you've collected, are not yet digital, right? But for us, it's digital first. So what we're beginning to see with eCampus, for example, is we're beginning to realize that some of the long-standing frameworks, things like teacher-to-student ratio, which is globally accepted as the basics of measuring the quality of teaching and learning. From what we are seeing, that's not actually the problem. And we're surprised because we have data. I used to believe that's the problem, but that's not. What's actually the problem is the feedback loop. You see? So it's beginning to show us something, right? Another thing we are saying is we use these data sets, the data points that we're getting, to understand students better. Not in the traditional sense, but we're understanding students through teachers. There's what they call differentiated learning. I never knew it until we started deploying at scale for these schools. And the teachers are like, because of our class sizes, it is impossible to achieve differentiated learning. So I'm like, what is differentiated learning? You know? So when I got to understand that a teacher's job is to observe a class of 50, 60 people and understand the learning behavior of each of them. Come on, like this human being, how are they going to do that? So that explains why they will say a small class size is better, because then with 20, one teacher can at least do differentiated learning, give feedback quickly, right? But with AI, it doesn't matter. One teacher to 1,000 students, we can even speed up the feedback loop, provide differentiated learning data points in real time. So if we are optimizing as a country to build more classrooms, train more teachers to catch up with the global norm for teacher-to-student ratio, we are wasting money. We should create our new standard, focus on feedback loop, achieve differentiated learning, because that's what the data is saying, and we spend less. So if you ask me what AI is doing for us at eCampus, sometimes I marvel at the dashboard, the kind of things I'm seeing. I'm like, maybe the Minister of Education should be seeing this, or Cabinet should be seeing this, because I don't walk on the corridors of power. I'm just trying to help my folks not to fail exams. But I see too much data. Maybe I should do. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. I think we have to clap. Okay, now, Prof, how can universities better identify and nurture AI talent early, especially among young students and underrepresented groups?
This comes back to getting closer to the communities. You know, our entry point for young people is admissions.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a system of admitting students, and usually the way it's done in Ghana, well, let me talk about University of Ghana. It's based on their results from WACC. If we sit around as a university and wait for our young people to write WACC to come in and hope that they will finally take a course that involves AI for us to identify the talent, we might be too late. So what we should be doing, in my opinion, is to start these relationships with communities very early on. So that, for example, you have an agreement with a certain number of schools within a certain community. You can have activities with them. I talked about outreach. You can go interact with young people in there. After all, universities now are supposed to make real impact, not just through published research, but by the impact they make in the communities. And so we can have these programs where we interact with young people in schools. We will be able to identify early on, depending on the types of activities we are having. If we are having challenges, competitions, we would be able to find young people very early on who have interest. We can nurture this interest. We can provide scholarships for those who show early interest and encourage them through the schooling system to finally come into university to continue what they are doing. So we have many opportunities, but sitting at the university to wait for graduates of secondary schools to join us is not the best way to do it.
This boils down to accessibility and resources. So whether there are no resources, how can people really go to the communities to champion this? Let's come to you, Cecil.
Yeah.
How do you connect AI-driven learning directly to real jobs and linking opportunities?
Okay, so that's great. I wanted to react to Prof's.
Okay.
It's Prof and Doc, right? Yeah.
No, it's Prof.
Prof. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
She's moved from Doc. She's not a professor.
Wow. Okay.
I can give you a lecture on this one.
So, to speak to this, the wait for new entrants or new students, what we are realizing, okay, so maybe let me give you perspective so you understand why I'm saying these things. As we speak, we have about 14 schools that we have brought on board officially because of the smart school project. Now they have tablets all over the secondary schools. So we're gradually onboarding them and we're beginning to see stuff. We see like career paths emerging in people who are in just Form 2. I would say no. The speed and accuracy with which this child is answering some of these questions and the kind of follow-up questions they are asking in the charts. This child shouldn't be in this class. First, fast forward the guy, right? So if you want, I can give you APIs to what we see. So you pick them, whether they're in Form 2, let them come to level 100 straight at the university. They can jump. So instead of, if there are no infrastructure or systems to go to the community and do what you're saying, we have 712 schools we need to onboard, the public schools. We've done 14 so far. And it's expensive. We're going with and putting in internet infrastructure, everything. But we're doing it. And the data we are seeing, maybe we should have a partnership with the universities. We give you access to our APIs and then query our models and say you are looking for this type of student. You'll be amazed. People are so intelligent in this country. Like, we have sharp brains, but we can't find them. So systems like this are helping us find them. So in connecting them to jobs, the same we want to connect them to the universities. I never had this idea until I'm on this panel, so we should pursue it, right? It's a good idea. Same way we are able to tell employers what students are able to do that their existing employees cannot do. The beauty of our system is that we provide B2B services as well. As I speak to you, all the 148 rural banks in Ghana have been using our platform since 2022 for their trainings and assessments. And we have insurance companies, so we are able to tell these companies that, look, your employee scored what? 42 last quarter when it came to marketing. This student in level 200 is scoring 31. Do you want that child on internship and start grooming them now? And that's how we connect them. I think what we should be thinking about, how do we share this kind of data? Because it sits with us. If it wasn't Josh who forced me to be on this panel, I'm not here.
Okay.
I would have still be keeping all that data. So maybe Okay, I'm saying too much.
No, I think it's fine. That's a discussion that Prof, you can.
Yes, this is a wonderful idea. We need to be sharing information.
Yeah.
However, I want to draw attention to something about universities and the experience of the physical university, right? If it were just about gaining technical knowledge, excellent, be online 100% for all of your education. But there's some value to the physical experience. So somebody may be technically good in a particular subject. It doesn't mean they have built all of the capacity they should to be able to interact with human beings in a physical workplace. So there are certain other things we need to add. I talked about problem solving. Problem solving does not involve only the technical skill. There are also serious soft skills that person must imbibe, right? There's also the networking aspect. In order for somebody to have a holistic view of a problem, they need to understand so many different things, some of which is not taught formally, but is taught through the activities that happen within a setting where you can speak to someone studying philosophy on a university campus that has nothing to do with what you are studying. So we need to also value the kinds of experiences that you can get by being in a certain environment.
Lovely. I think they deserve some clap. Let's clap for them. Lovely insights. Dr. Nyatati, what role should private universities play in accelerating AI talent pipelines compared to public universities?
Okay, thank you for that. I think private universities like ourselves are uniquely positioned to be very agile. So we can dynamically, evolve and move around industry pretty quickly as compared to public schools with probably long decision processes. And so once we are in this particular ecosystem where we are quite agile, we at Economic City have identified that most engineering or science-related subjects that tend to have AI is quite domain involved. AI, for instance, you need a lot of domain knowledge in a particular field to be able to make good programs or algorithms. However, we are one of the very few universities who are developing a full 4-year curriculum for artificial intelligence. So BSc artificial intelligence from level 100 to level 400. And so we are developing people who are not just users, but also creators. This makes them extremely versatile and they can easily move in any industry, because you realize that if you have people who have done engineering for a while or computer science for a while, they are heavily domain abundant. But then when it comes to the frameworks of artificial intelligence, you realize that they lack. They can create programs from picking up different APIs across board, but then the BSc Artificial Intelligence student will build it up from the ground up. And so they have more domain understanding of the framework or the architecture. One of the biggest problems, and even most companies are now regretting automating their coding, because AI creates a code and the engineers cannot find exactly where the problems are coming from, right? Because they all know how to apply it, but nobody knows how to really build it from the ground up. And so once you specialize, and we are uniquely positioned to do that, to specialize people in AI, so data collection, validation, visualization, and also architecture. From the ground up, we help our students to be able to become quite marketable. And so one of the best things, or one of the best apps you'll probably see, is when a business person meets an IT person, right? So the business person says, I have this idea, but I don't know what to do. The IT person says, okay, I don't know what the idea is, but if you tell me, I can program it, because I have the right framework to do that. And so once we're able to do this, we create a unique pipeline into industry, and we can develop quite dynamic students who can evolve the AI ecosystem.
So the response directly comes to the question I have for you, Dr. Ayorkor. What does meaningful collaboration between academia and industry actually look like beyond internship, beyond research paper, and then guest lecture?
So first, I don't want to discount those three, okay, right? Because those are actually three really powerful tools for collaboration. The thing about guest lectures is that it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the easiest thing to do, to invite someone experienced from industry into your classroom. And the impact that conversation over a 1 hour, 1.5 hour period has really cannot be measured, because all of a sudden, we always joke, those of us who are lecturers, is that you spend so much time repeating certain things to your students over and over again, and it's like it goes in one ear and out the other. Invite someone from industry to your class and you'll say exactly the same thing you've been trying to tell them for the past 5 weeks, and all of a sudden they hear it, right? Because that person, in the eyes of the student, has a validation that they think that you being a lecturer, you don't know what you're talking about, right? So just a simple guest lecture is actually a really powerful tool. Internships are a notch above that, in that they are putting, it's actually a two-way benefit. If internships, if used properly, are very beneficial both ways. Because for the students, they're exposing them to real-world problems and applications. And for the industry, it's exposing them to talent. So they are able to see the talent that is coming up in the next couple of years, and they start grooming, they start competing for that talent. That is, if the internship is designed properly and not just an internship where people are doing busy work that's not valuable to the company, right? And then joint collaborative research is a notch higher than that, which basically enables academia and industry to co-create that future, right? And I think in this conversation, there's also been conversation about having industry feed into the design of curricula. There's also been conversation about, identifying problems that students can work on. So, when you say beyond these three, I struggle to think of what that beyond looks like. But I think the key thing is that there needs to be this constant collaboration, conversation, and we shouldn't discount the seemingly simple tools that we have. They're actually extremely powerful.
So we cannot dwell with internship.
You
We cannot
cannot
dwell with research papers. We can dwell with guest lectures.
No, research papers. What is a research paper? It's the research that's more important, right? So we can't do away with research. If you choose not to publish it, fine. If it's being disseminated in some other way, if it's feeding into industry, if it's feeding into startups, that's fine, right? But of course, from academia, we do value research papers, publications as well. But I would say that the paper is the secondary outcome. What is more important is the actual research and knowledge that is created from that research, and how that research is then implemented.
Doc, out of your research, you come up with a paper because you produce your findings in the paper, right?
Yes, but there are other ways to disseminate. I'm not saying research papers are not important. They're extremely important, right? But who's reading the research papers? Maybe further, other academics, right? But if in addition to papers, you have other ways of disseminating that work, and you have, for example, entrepreneurship growing out of the outcomes of certain research, then the impact becomes greater. Papers are valuable, it's the currency of academia, but it's not the only way for your research to make an impact.
Going to answer the question clearly. I see Prof wants to add something, and then we go to the general question. And Rocco,
I want to talk about the purpose of universities. It's very important to me because we need to understand that typically universities are responsible for creation of new knowledge. Okay, sometimes we drift away from that. The conversation sometimes moves away from the purpose of universities, and that concerns me. We behave as if all knowledge has been found, it's now left with application, which is not the truth. We still need to create new knowledge, especially in our environment here. And it's the main purpose of the university, right, to do this. So the research will have to continue. It's not stopping anytime soon. I hope it doesn't stop. Yes. So the research will go on, and a natural output of research is the publication. It's actually, if you look at the scientific process of creation of knowledge, the end point is sharing of that knowledge. So the publication will go on. The format of publication we can discuss, but the publications will go on because we need to share new knowledge so that those that want to apply the knowledge can find it and apply it. Okay, that said, the interactions between industry and academia must revolve around the things that happen within the context of knowledge creation, building capacity, right, by teaching. And then also there is one aspect that we haven't talked about too much, which is the service that we render, right? We also render service. Okay, all of this, in doing this, we are producing our graduates for, many of them for industry. We need to have a close collaboration in doing that. Industry cannot sit aloof and wait for academia to do it and then say you didn't do a good job. To avoid that situation, we welcome the participation of industry in training up the people that will be feeding into their operations. Yes. So the industry has to be part of it. Academia has to be aware that it's not an end just to graduate someone. We are graduating them for a purpose. So we are partners in this. Okay, so what I would like to see industry doing more of here in Ghana, especially with all of these AI tools coming up, we becoming builders and so on, they should support us to incubate. Okay? They should support us to incubate so that it's not just the teaching. You'd have a startup that comes out of a university because the research has taken place. It is not yet a product. There are certain things that must take place, and universities usually are not well equipped to do so.
Right.
So industry must come and partner with us to take those wonderful research ideas and convert them through incubation and commercialization processes to get the products that we want. That is where the real partnership going forward should be, in addition to everything else. I agree that we must have the lectures, we will have the internships, but we must move forward incubation and then commercialization of products together. That is the next level we need to see.
Lovely. On that note, give me your closing remarks, Prof. What does success look like if Ghana gets AI education right at the national level?
I want to agree with some of the members of the previous panel. We must have a clear plan in place. If you don't have the metrics you are measuring to determine success, it's meaningless to do a whole lot of activities. How will you know that you've been successful? So first thing is for us to decide where we want to get to. What things should we do? If we have done well, what should that look like? For me, what I'm thinking about from an educational perspective is that we have young people who have gone through our educational system, who are aware of the tools that are currently out there, who are visionary enough to think about the future problems and start coming up with solutions to those future problems, who have technical skill and soft skills to be able to tackle all of this. If we graduate people like this, then we are in a good place.
Thank you. Let me come to you, Cecil. Now, e-platform. What is one capacity every graduate? So I don't know whether on your e-platform you have graduates there. Have you got graduates?
University students you mean?
No, do you graduate? You said you can just move them from the e-platform to the university because they possess these abilities ready to study at the university. Now, the question again, what is one capacity every graduate must have to remain relevant in an AI-driven capacity or AI-driven economy?
Ask good questions. It's as simple as that.
Oh.
That means Ask good questions. Because there's no way you outthink an algorithm. No way. I mean, even if the data is not structured, it's just the raw data on the internet. Look at the abilities of all these models.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can outthink the algorithm. Your leverage here is asking quality questions. So, I mean, if we're recruiting at eCampus, we're not excited about first class. So the interview is the other way around. I want to hear you ask me intelligent questions. I mean, ask me questions that will make me reference before I can even answer you. Then I know I have somebody in the room that can take my business forward. But if you're just sitting there and everything waiting for me to tell you yes, man, then I want my company to live 1,000 years. I may do maybe what, 70, 80 years, if I'm lucky like my grandma, 95. The remaining 800 or something. You can't ask questions. I should hand over my company to you. I'm sorry. Ask questions.
Graduates, ask good questions. That's one capacity you need to go with. That's lovely. Let's continue, Dr. Nyantichi. I love the way Prof is nodding. Oh. Now, Dr. Nyantichi, what is one bold institutional shift universities must make today to produce globally competitive AI talent from Africa, since we are rethinking African intelligence?
Wow, that's a very good question. I believe that universities, just like we have a lot of mandatory courses that cut across the curriculum, like communication skills, African studies, and these other courses, I believe that AI or some form of AI can be embedded across all courses, even the marketing course, right? Marketers use a lot of AI. Facebook, when they are giving you your feeds and reels, is based on the data they've studied, and so this is a form of marketing. And so even if the marketer can even understand the way AI is being used, that would be great. The business person can be able to understand the analytics, the language people can probably further move the conversation of large language models, right, with probably more technical expertise as compared to the engineer, so across fields. So that's not just confined to computer science and engineering, but across fields, make it mandatory. We can probably leverage the levels in terms of how deep they should go in AI, but at least responsible AI and some form of AI literacy across all universities and across all courses. I believe that particular shift can remarkably transform the ecosystem in the next future.
Talk of shifts, Dr. Ayorkor. If you were to redesign AI education in Africa from scratch, what is the one non-negotiable element you would include?
I think it's impossible to talk about one non-negotiable, right? So I think what I'll say is maybe the non-negotiable is that you have to have an integrated focus on three things: knowledge, skills, and dispositions or attitudes. If you focus, when you focus too much on knowledge, then you have lots of theory. When you focus only on skills, then you have lots of people who are applying tools that they don't really understand how they work. And I feel like that is a lot of our AI ecosystem at the moment. We have lots of people using APIs. They're doing amazing things, but they don't really understand how these things work, right? So you need both the knowledge, the theoretical foundations, and the skills, but most importantly, then you need the dispositions and attitudes. So we can think of it as know what, know how, and know why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And so I think to have impact, we need to give equal attention to these three important aspects. So that integration, I would say, is the non-negotiable.
Wow, so I asked one is non-negotiable, but three can be negotiable. Lovely. Please clap. Now, We are going to give the floor, we are going to open the floor for you to ask all your questions based on the deliberation that has gone on right now. But I want to leave us with a rhetorical question, a question that we are all going to think about as we move our way from here. Okay. We've had perspective across various levels. They are all at the university, and we've heard from outside of the physical world to virtual space. I think I love that. Where do you see the strongest opportunity to bridge the gap between academia and real-world AI deployments? And so this is a question to all of us. Moving away from here, it's something I want us to think about, and then I'm sure if we think about those, we will be able to really rethink Africa and bring about the change that we deserve. And so I'm going to take 3 questions.